So this is how I get ready for bed in the back of my truck.
The cost of living in this country is currently, it's not going to be, it is currently unsustainable.
Bro, if I knew how bad the economy was going to be up to date, I wouldn't have been riding no bikes, playing no video games. I would have bought a house when I was 10.
Can somebody tell me why these chicken wings $30.80 for 10 of them?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm over these prices on everything.
We've reached a point where the numbers don't even sound real anymore. People with jobs are sleeping in cars. Families are turning storage units into homes. Men making over $100,000 a year still feel broke. And for everyone else, the grocery receipts, the rent checks, even the electric bills are enough to break you before the month is even over. That's not just crisis. That's collapse.
I just left from Walmart. I spent almost $200 on nothing.
Somebody, the president, I don't know, Congress, somebody needs to address this issue because I'm about to crash out. I'm trying to understand why I got 5 tacos from my local taco shop here in Dallas, Texas, and the tacos end up being damn near $30.
This is the part the headlines will never tell you. When survival takes your whole paycheck, dating becomes optional, marriage feels impossible, and love itself turns into luxury. Let's break down the everyday reality. The $80 grocery bags, the $1,500 one-bedroom apartments, the $600 utility bill. Because once you see how bad it really is, you'll understand why people aren't just giving up on the American dream. They're giving up on love itself. When people talk about the cost of living crisis, it sounds like a headline until you look at the receipts. Let's start off with groceries because that's where most families feel it first. Right now, Americans are walking out of the store with 8 or 9 items in a bag, and it costs them $70 to $80. I'm not talking about steak, lobsters, or fancy wine. I'm talking about bread, milk, eggs, maybe a pack of chicken, if that. People are filming themselves on TikTok, literally holding a tiny bag of food saying, "How is this $80? For a family, it's even worse. The average couple spends $600 to $800 a month just to eat at home. Add kids to the mix, and it shoots even higher.
Here go my weekly haul right here, and I got 2 cases of water. That's it. And it was $114. Can you believe this?
That's why you hear so many parents say, "We can't afford to have more kids," or even, "We're skipping meals so our children can eat." And it doesn't stop there. Eating out at fast food restaurants used to be the cheap option. Now, a Waffle House breakfast is over $20 for one person. A McDonald's McGriddle meal, $7. A family bucket from KFC, $60. When fast food feels like fine dining, you know something is broken.
$17 for 3 Filet-O-Fishes at McDonald's? Are you kidding me? Pull around, order 3 Filet-O-Fishes, not the meal, just the sandwich. She clarified. She said, the sandwich or the meal? And I said, just the sandwich. And she said, 3 of them? I said, yes. Tell me why it was $17 for 3 Filet-O-Fishes on Friday during Lent at McDonald's. I'm not crazy. I sat there and blinked my eyes, and then I just pulled away because I was so angry.
Now, let's talk rent. Across America, the average one-bedroom apartment costs $1,500 or more. That's in cities where a few years ago, you could rent the same place for under $800. In some areas, they call those $2,000 shoebox apartments luxury units. But the only luxury is having 4 walls and a roof. Even people making 6 figures, something that used to mean stability, are admitting they feel broke. Imagine working hard, making $100,000 a year and still not being able to save, still worrying if you can cover rent, groceries, utilities, and maybe put something aside for emergencies. If $100,000 isn't enough anymore, what chance does someone making $40,000 a year have?
So I just got home from touring an apartment, and this whole drive home, I have been stewing with anger because between the time I signed up for that tour a week ago and the time I got there to do the tour today, the price of the unit I was interested in has gone up by $300. $300 in a week. And I no longer qualify for the unit at all.
And then there's the utility bills. In Connecticut, families are posting their $650 to $1,100 electricity bills. These aren't mansions, they're regular homes. Why so high? Because the bills are stuffed with public benefit charges and hidden fees. Imagine paying more for your electric bill than for your mortgage. That's not sustainable. Insurance is another silent killer. Home insurance premiums are exploding. Some families have been told, we can't cover you at all. Think about that. You've paid thousands every year for a safety net, and one day, they just pull it away. No fire coverage, no flood coverage, nothing. And cars? Once the proud symbol of American freedom, now they're a financial trap. A base model Ford F-150, the working man's truck, now costs $60,000 to $80,000. That's more than the average American earns in a year. And if you somehow buy it, don't forget the insurance, the maintenance, the gas. That's still bouncing around $3 to $4 a gallon in many places. This is the everyday reality people are facing. It's not about bad decisions or laziness. These are people working jobs, sometimes 2 or 3 at a time, and still falling behind. They're watching their entire paycheck vanish before the month is even halfway done. And here's where it ties into relationships. If groceries, rent, utilities, and cars already eat your paycheck, where does dating fit in? Where does marriage fit in? Starting a family? Those things don't feel like milestones anymore. They feel like risks. Risks most people can't afford to take.
Recently, it just came to my notice that a lot of men don't like going on a date anymore. Men don't like to take women out, and women are not happy with that. So, my sister, I am here to clarify the whole situation. The reason why men don't like going on a date anymore is because cost of living has went up. And when you ask an average woman, what do you want us to do? The only thing they will recommend is restaurant. That is the fact. Restaurant, they want to go there and eat free food. And who is paying for this free food? Men. Cost of living has went up. Rents are expensive. Food are expensive. So my sister, the earlier you know this, the better for you.
Numbers are shocking, but what really hits you are the stories. Let's start with housing. Across America, families are moving into storage units. Imagine paying rent your whole life, only to end up raising kids in a place designed to hold old furniture. People film themselves in these units saying, it's not living, it's just surviving. And the heartbreaking part? They're not exaggerating. It's not just storage units. People with full-time jobs are living in their cars. They park overnight at Walmart or Planet Fitness, shower at gyms or truck stops, and pray they don't get a ticket for being homeless while employed. One man said, I'd rather live free in my car than be a slave to bills I can't even pay. That's not laziness. That's a system that's broken. And it's not just the poor. Even the so-called comfortable are trapped. College graduates are working 2 jobs and still moving back with their parents. Some discover that their degree career pays less than waiting tables or working retail. The American dream, go to school, get a job, buy a home, start a family, has been flipped upside down. A 6-figure income used to mean you were safe, middle class, maybe even thriving. Now, it barely covers rent, groceries, gas, utilities, insurance, and debt payments. Families are saying, we make good money, but we're still drowning. If 6 figures isn't enough, what does that mean for everyone else? And then there are the parents. One single mother making $37,000 a year as a teacher admitted she sometimes skips meals so her kids can eat. Think about that. Someone shaping the next generation of children can't afford enough food for her own? That's not just a financial crisis. That's a moral one. Daycare is another crushing blow. For families lucky enough to have 2 working parents, childcare can cost $10,000 to $15,000 a year per child. For many, that's more than rent. So, what do parents do? Some drop out of the workforce, others delay having kids entirely, and many just give up on the idea of ever building a family. And it's not just parents. Young people are burnt out before they even start. Gen Z workers talk about feeling hopeless, working multiple jobs, and still unable to move out. A 22-year-old in California said, I'm working 2 jobs, making decent money, and I still can't afford a $1,500 one-bedroom apartment. Imagine trying to date, trying to build a future, when you can't even afford your own place. Even retirees aren't safe. People who work 30 to 40 years are hitting retirements with no savings, no safety net, and rising medical bills. Instead of enjoying their golden years, they're stocking shelves at Walmart or driving Uber just to stay alive. And here's the question no one wants to face. How do you date, marry, or start a family in this reality? When you're living in a car, love isn't romantic. It's another mouth to feed. When your grocery bill is $600 a month, a date night feels like a luxury trip. And when childcare costs more than rent, having kids feels like a financial suicide. This is why more and more men are looking at love, marriage, and family and quietly saying, forget it. Not because they don't want love, but because love has been priced out of reach. Here's the part that really stings. When Americans hear about life in other countries, they're shocked. Not because it's worse, but because it's better. People with a fraction of our income are living fuller, freer lives. And once you see the contrast, it's hard to unsee it. Take Mexico. At a Walmart there, the same grocery that costs $80 in the US can cost less than half. Meat, milk, produce, the essentials that drain American wallets are affordable. Families don't walk out of stores wondering how they spent their whole paycheck on a few bags of food. Or look at Thailand. In Bangkok, $4,000 a month buys a luxury lifestyle, condo, fresh food, dining out, transportation, even household help. In the US, that same $4,000 barely covers rent, bills, or groceries for even middle-class families. One traveler put it bluntly, in America, I survived. Abroad, I live. And then there's China. A teacher making $30,000 a year, which counts as poverty in the US, described the living as upper middle class. Her downtown 3-bedroom apartment cost $556 a month, but her job covered half of it. So she paid only $278. She spent $75 on groceries, $150 just eating out, and still saved $1,000 a month. In America, $30,000 leaves you broke. In China, it leaves you comfortable. Vietnam tells the same story. Families there spend less on food in a week than many Americans spend on one fast food meal. Fresh market, affordable healthcare, community networks, things Americans either pay a premium for or go without. And that brings us to another massive difference. In many countries, healthcare is included, subsidized, or affordable. Here in the US, healthcare is the #1 cause of bankruptcy. A broken leg or a hospital stay can erase years of saving. Abroad, it's a visit, a bill, and you move on with your life. What about children? In dozens of countries, a government actually pays parents allowances for each child, help with food, housing, even school costs. And the government offers little more than a tax credit that barely scratches the surface. And here's the kicker. In countries where people earn less, they often report being happier. Why? Because their costs don't crush them. Because family isn't a financial trap. Because love doesn't require a 6-figure income just to feel safe. So, when men in America hear these stories, they start asking, why would I sign up for a marriage or a family here when in other places, those things aren't punishment, they're joys?
I want you to imagine somebody that makes $75,000 a year. That's a pretty high up wage in terms of like top earners in this country, $75,000 a year. And we're going to go through some things here. This is a person with no debt outside of a car. And please don't hit me with the, you can go buy a car for, an entry level decent car is $30,000. So this person who puts $200 a month into insurance and they pay 5% into their 401k. So after those two things come out of their paycheck and their taxes are paid, they bring home $53,850 a year from a $75,000 paycheck. Average rent in my state for a 1-bedroom apartment, because an adult should be able to live by themselves, $1,700. That car payment at 6% for an entry-level, very reasonable sedan, nothing fancy. The car payment's $579 a month. Car insurance, $240 or so a month for a lot of vehicles in this day and age. You're a young person, you've got a nice job, but the insurance companies still want to screw you over. Food. You only cook at home. You never, ever go out. You only cook at home and you only eat decent quality food because a human being should be allowed to eat decent quality food. You pay $879 a month for that. You spend $250 a month in gas. You wear and tear on your car $100 a month. $80 for your phone, $80 for your internet, $175 a month for your electricity, $70 for your water, $20 for your cash. You make 75 grand a year, and outside of a car payment, you have zero debt. Do you know how much money you have left over annually at a $75,000 wage? You do nothing. You don't own a Netflix. You don't go out on a date. You don't pay to go to a park. You don't go watch a movie. You do nothing. If you can't find it on the internet for free, you don't get to do it. If you can't cook it at home for your $800, you don't get to do it. You have $3,700 left over annually. That's like $320 a month.
This is where the truth becomes impossible to ignore. It's not that men don't want love. It's not that they don't want families. It's that America has quietly turned love into a luxury item, something you pay for, finance, or sacrifice everything just to keep, instead of something that grows naturally in your life. And once you understand that, you see why more and more men are deciding it's not worth the risk. If money problem were just about math, we'd be frustrated, but we'd find a way through. What makes this different, what makes it unbearable, is the emotional toll. It's the hopelessness that creeps in when every month feels like drowning, even when you're swimming as hard as you can. Polls show that 2 out of 3 Americans are stressed about money. 3 out of 4 say their income isn't keeping up with inflation. That's not a few people on the margins. That's almost everyone. And stress like this doesn't just hit bank accounts. It hits mental health, marriages, dating lives, and the way people see their future. Listen to what people are saying in their own words. I'm not living. I'm just surviving. If I didn't have kids, I'd live in the storage unit too. Even at $30 an hour, I can't get ahead. I'm doing everything right, and I still feel like a failure. That's not the sound of laziness. That's the sound of people who've been pushed past their limit. And for men especially, this hits hard. For generations, men were told their value came from being providers. Buy the house, raise the family, secure the future. But how do you play that role when rent alone takes half your paycheck? When daycare costs more than college tuition? When groceries for 1 month cost what used to be a car payment? The result? A growing number of men are stepping back. Not because they don't want to provide, not because they don't want love, but because they see the math and realize the role they were taught to play has become impossible. Love starts to look less like joy and more like a liability. Dating isn't exciting, it's stressful. Marriage isn't partnership, it's debt. And for a man who already feels crushed by bills, the idea of adding more weight feels impossible. That's why you see so many younger men are saying, forget it. Forget dating, forget marriage, forget families. Not because they hate women, not because they don't want connection, but because they've done the math. And in America today, love feels like a luxury item they can't afford to touch.
Hey, if you single right now, sleep in your car. Sleep in your car for a while. At least 6 months to a year and keep going to work. And I know a lot of y'all are saying, nah, that's crazy, I'm not doing it. Sleep in your car for at least a year to 6 months.
And here's what's even scarier. This isn't just about the present. It's about the future. A country where men and women give up on relationship is a country that gives up on children. Birth rates drop, families shrink, communities weaken. And suddenly, the cost of living crisis isn't just about money anymore. It's about the collapse of culture itself. Because at the center of it all, it's one truth. When survival eats your whole paycheck, love becomes the first thing sacrificed. And when love is sacrificed, everything else, family, marriage, even hope, starts to collapse with it. When you step back and look at everything, the grocery receipts, the rent, the impossible medical bill, one truth rises above it all. America has turned survival into a full-time job. And when survival takes everything you've got, love becomes the first casualty. Think about it. Love is supposed to be free. Relationships are supposed to be about connection, trust, building a life together. But here, love comes with a price tag. Dating means spending money you don't have. Marriage means taking on debt you can't pay. Children means financial commitment that can last a lifetime and a system that gives you almost no help. So, is it any wonder that millions of men are saying, forget it? Because at some point, it's not about whether you want love, it's about whether you can survive it. And in America today, love isn't something that grows naturally. It's something you finance, something you sacrifice for. And luxuries are the first thing to go when money runs out. And here's the haunting part. It's not just about men. When men stop pursuing love, marriage, and family, the entire society shifts. Birth rates fall. Communities hollow out. The culture itself begins to weaken. What starts as a financial crisis becomes a relationship crisis, a family crisis, even a national identity crisis. This is why the conversation matters, because behind every rent check, every grocery bill, every gas receipt, there's a bigger question. What happens to a nation when love itself becomes too expensive to afford? Maybe you felt it yourself. Maybe you've looked at your paycheck and realized it doesn't stretch far enough. Maybe you skipped a date night because the bill were too heavy. Maybe you thought about marriage or kids and whispered to yourself, not now. Maybe never. If that's you, you're not alone. Millions are feeling the same way. Millions are doing the same math. And millions are quietly giving up. So the next time someone asks, why are men giving up? This is the answer. It's that in America right now, the system has made it harder than ever to build it. And let me be clear. This isn't about hating America. This isn't about giving up on the country we call home. It's about recognizing that ordinary men and women are carrying impossible burdens and asking how long can people keep up before something has to change. Because deep down, Americans still want the same thing that people everywhere wants: connection, families, love, and a future worth fighting for. Those values haven't disappeared. They've just been buried under bills, debts, and a system that feels stacked against us. And that's why this conversation matters, because love should never be a luxury. Not here, not anywhere. And the more we talk about it, the more we shine a light on what's broken, the closer we get to making love and family something everyone can afford again. So let me know in the comments, you guys. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts? It has been your girl, Rene here. I'll see you guys in my next video.